Welcome back to the channel where I provide regular cricket content on interesting topics. In this series I'll be taking a little walk down recent memory lane and listing who I believe to be the best bowlers of the 2000s. I have broken the bowlers down into what I believe to be the top 15. I am looking for consistency, longevity, match-winning performances and overall ability. The only two rules are that firstly I am only considering their performances in the 10 years between 2000 and 2010. Secondly, they must have played at least 15 test matches in the decade. Let's get started. Number 15. Darren Gough. The early 2000s was an exciting time to be an English cricket fan. We had just come off of a decade where we were being thumped all over the world, and seemed to be improving. From a seam bowler angle, however, we were just turning out middle-of-the-road players like Andy Caddick and Dominic Cork. They were okay, but compared to what was on show around the world, we were not going to beat good sides consistently. Darren Gough, however, was one bowler who I would say just about sneaks in as being world-class. He could put the ball through at a good pace, and when he got it going he could reverse swing the ball sharply. Nobody contributed more to England's 4 series wins in a row in 2000 and 2001 than Gough. He was after all the player of the series against West Indies and in Sri Lanka. Succeeding there and in Pakistan, the traditional graveyard of fast bowlers, was probably the greatest achievement of his career. Over the course of the early 2000s, Gough played 24 test matches before injury called time on his career in the longer format. He did, however, manage to take 94 wickets at an average of 27.4. This is good enough for me for him to sneak in this list at number 15. Number 14. Stuart Clark. Clark is testament to the strength and depth in the Australian game around this period. It was actually tragedy which led to his call-up to the Australian side, as he was brought in when Glenn McGrath was caring for his terminally ill wife. Whilst I am sure Clark wouldn't have wanted to break into the side in such circumstances, he certainly took his opportunity. Clark collected his baggy green at Cape Town against the South Africans and earned his side a victory with 5 for 55 and 4 for 34, the third best match figures by an Australian debutant. It was actually fitting that he replaced McGrath as he was cut out of a similar mould. I doubt any fast bowler in history was quite as accurate as McGrath, but Clark made a good effort of replicating him. My memory of Clark was him being a right pain in the backside against England, picking up wickets at will. In the 2006-2007 Ashes series he took 26 wickets at an average of just 17 against us, playing a major part in our drubbing. Clark's test career was ultimately quite short, but in the 24 matches he played he still took 94 wickets at a very healthy average of 23.9. That's good enough for the palm-smashing Aussie to come in at number 14 in this list. Number 13. Jason Gillespie. Dizzy slides a bit under the radar in terms of Aussie quick bowlers. He didn't have the pace, for example, of Lee, and he didn't have the accuracy of McGrath. But what set him apart from those two, in my opinion, was his ability to make the ball talk. This was evidenced by one stat which does the rounds, in that no bowler in history has apparently made more batsmen play and miss than Gillespie. Although I can't confirm the accuracy of that statement, it would make sense as the Aussie could hoop the ball in the air and nip it off the surface. I think another reason he isn't talked about as much as others is down to the fact his career was plagued by injury. In fact, he only played in 52 out of a possible 92 games during his time in the fold. Also, he never actually dominated a series like some of his compatriots. Gillespie never took more than 20 wickets in a series. But if you take all of those issues to one side, you are left with a player who has a great record and caused the best players plenty of trouble. In his stop-start career in the 2000s he took 209 wickets at an average of just over 27. He and McGrath also hold the record as the most successful bowling partnership in Australian history, better even than Lillee and Thompson. All of that more than justifies his place as number 13 in this list. Number 12. Shane Bond. Shane Bond just scrapes into the list after playing 18 tests in the 2000s. Had his career not been tragically blighted by injury after injury, he may well have been higher. Bond was a legitimate pacer who troubled the best batsmen of his era. He was known to hit mid-90s in terms of miles per hour. He unfortunately had an action which caused a lot of stress on what was a fragile body, meaning that he never really strung a consistent period together in the side. Although his performances in the longer format were limited, he still made an impact in the game. 20 wickets against the West Indies at an average of 21, and a combined 20 wickets against India and Pakistan at an average of 18 shows his talent. He will be perhaps best known for his one-day achievements where he was the second fastest bowler ever to 100 wickets. But searing pace and 87 wickets at an average of 22 is good enough for me for him to come in at number 12 in this list. Number 11, Mohammad Asif. If Shane Bond scraped in with 18 test matches, Mohammad Asif was even closer with just 15. Asif's reason for only playing a low amount of test matches is of course very different to Bond's. I have covered his ban in previous videos on wasted talents in the game. But today I want to really focus on his ability, which was on full display in his cut-down 2000s based career. Mohammad Asif burst onto the scene and the whole world stood up to attention. One of the performances which sticks out to me was when Asif took 6 for 41 against a strong Aussie side away from home in Sydney. He was able to generate more movement off of the pitch than any other bowler on show. He also took 19 wickets away from home against an equally strong South African side. That performance lifted him into the top 10 of the ICC rankings in record time for a Pakistani, a record he shared with none other than Waqar Younis. In fact, in a short career the youngster managed to make it all the way to a number 2 ranking. I am sure had he continued in the side he would have hit number 1 before too long. Interestingly, he jointly holds the world record for the most amount of ducks in a row in tests. Bonus points to anyone who knows who he holds the record with, without looking it up, you cheating bunch. As with any comment about Asif, it is always tinged with sadness as we never saw him fulfill his potential. Still, however, 73 wickets at an average of 23 is good enough for me to rank him as the 11th best bowler of the 2000s. That wraps up part 1 of this 3-video series, and there are plenty of great bowlers to come. What do you think of the list so far? Have I rated anyone too high or too low? I'm always interested to read what you smart cricket fans think. Feel free to have a punt at my top 10 as well. All 10 in any order gets a shout out. As ever, thank you all for watching and participating.